After this, the next expression, the next emotion that we'll see is attentive. The most important, I guess. This is actually an important body language, both in the corporate world and in the academic world, also in personal life also. It indicates the level of genuine interest of the listener. The picture that we see over here, it says that you seek to understand and you'll be understood. The man is listening very carefully. That is what we can perhaps interpret from the picture. There are several ways to indicate attentiveness through your body language. These signals encourage the other person to continue speaking. So, while communicating, it is very much important that you show an attentive body language so that the speaker feels motivated to talk influentially and to talk confidently. Attentive body language includes quite different kind of signals. For example, gazing of the eyes towards the speaker, so you actually don't stare to make him uncomfortable, but then you have an undivided attention. You keep your eye contact very strong so that you show the speaker that you're listening to him carefully. Mild nods of head at periodic intervals, that shows that you're interested and you're understanding and you're paying attention to the words that he's trying to say. So nodding, you know like not nodding continuously, of course, which would be seen as very funny, but nodding at certain points, perhaps at the end of the statement, perhaps at the end of a particular subject, no, that shows that you're trying to pay attention. Chin and body slightly bent to forward towards the speaker. When you sit enthusiastically, when you lean forward in your chair, these kind of posture shows that you are interested in the discussion. Saying yes, is it so, at appropriate points. Also, you must have noticed this, that while discussing, when we agree with someone, we tend to say absolutely, definitely, exactly, precisely. All these kind of adverbs, if I may say it so, are used generally in any kind of communication which we can observe is being going on very smoothly. When you agree with the speaker, when there is some sort of agreement in the communication, all these words will be used. Also, yes, is it so, as I mentioned earlier, these are also the words that you can try to add to make sure that you show some sort of attentiveness to the speaker. And not interrupting the speaker, but waiting for him to finish his point before responding. This shows that you actually care about the person. This shows that you respect the speaker and his point of view. Being in a hurry to prove your point is very much unprofessional, and it is kind of a lousy gesture. So let's try to avoid it whenever we are trying to communicate in a professional or personal life. Let's try to hear out a person completely and then talk our point of view. Switching off the mobile phone or ensuring that he is not going to get disturbed. Well, this is a very small gesture that anybody can follow, a very small rule. Let's not, make people tell us that put your phones on silent or put your phones on a switch off mode while we are communicating or when we are discussing something very much important with our colleagues in our professional life or even in our personal life. Say, if we are having a very important discussion, it is very much important that we keep our mobile gadgets, which are like we are very fond of. Yes, we all totally have a lot of work, personal, professional work with our phones. We understand that. But just keeping them a bit aside while communicating, it indicates that you are showing an interest in the conversation, and it is quite important to you more than your phones. Well, we all know how much important our phones are to ourselves these days, but then let's just show this gesture so that the speaker gets that kind of confidence to speak with you, and whatever the communication will be, that will be quite effective if you follow this kind of basic rule. Well, these actions are powerful signals that show undivided attention of the listener. Typically, these gestures are not missed by the speaker. Anybody would always notice this. Well, you're not talking exactly through these signals, but these non-verbal signals will only encourage the speaker to talk confidently, and perhaps the communication would be very effective. You will understand his message clearly. The next expression, the next emotion is nervousness, anxiety. Is it any kind of fear? Well, some sort of fear, some sort of apprehension that stops us, that actually makes us weak and feel not so confident about ourselves. That is nervousness. This body language is important to avoid, especially in interviews and during presentations. Nervousness is clearly visible to all. The first sign of nervousness is having a dry throat while talking. Well, when you're starting with a conversation, it happens a lot of times that if you're nervous, you try to clear your throat. You try to speak in a low volume. That shows your nervousness. A dry throat resulting in frequent or visible swallowing of the saliva, that is also a sign of nervousness. Lack of confidence also gets reflected in unsteady voice when you start stammering, and also when you try to fumble, and try to, when you're not confident enough about what exactly you have to speak. That times we cannot communicate confidently or clearly. Also, avoiding eye contact or head which is bent down. Also, some people have a hunch in their back when we don't stand in an erect posture. That shows that you are nervous about something. During large group presentations, nervousness is quite common among first timers, especially. The view of the large audience often brings insecurity in the minds of the presenter, accompanied by the fear of failure. We have fear that something might go wrong. Perhaps we might forget about subject. Perhaps we might forget our lines. Perhaps we might lose the track of the subject, lose the track of the flow of the presentation. This can lead to losing track of thought process and mechanical reading of the slides. This is, a lot of times it happens that when you don't know what to speak next or what to be explained next, you just naturally tend to read out the slides instead of explaining them or instead of sticking to your basic plan of presentation.